Indiana. Indiana Hoosiers win the national championship. These guys go 16-0, the perfect season. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. They deserve it. Um, I'm going to say a couple things about Indiana, but let me start off with Miami. Great season, great effort. Nobody gave them the chance after they lost those two games within that three-game stretch, and everybody just wrote them off. And Miami did everything they could to put themselves in a position to make it to the national championship, and they deserve having had reached the national championship. It's a shame they lose this game, but this is what happens when you don't have what you need at quarterback. I think they overreached for Carson Beck from the very beginning. It's a shame Miami didn't have this type of defense last season. Cam Ward wins this game. Cam Ward makes better plays and much more consistently. You can trust him with the offense. And they kind of handheld Carson Beck all game. Took forever. It took them to need it for him to start making plays. And even still, you're kind of always on the edge of your seat thinking, is this guy going to throw an interception? This game right here, to me, solidifies that Carson Beck ends up being a third day pick when it comes down time to the NFL draft. Wouldn't be surprised if he messed around and go undrafted, to be honest with you. He's a full on backup quarterback because there's just too much you don't know what you're going to be able to do with your offense when he's back there at quarterback. Fernando Mendoza, on the other hand, special performance. No touchdowns thrown, no touchdowns needed. Got the one on the ground, which was big time. Every single time the Indiana Hoosiers decided to run up the middle on third and long or fourth and long, they caught Miami off guard. Really fascinating. They're getting ready to do the trophy presentation right now. I'm listening in my ear here. Miami struggled on third down. They didn't get a third down conversion until I think it was their last drive or second to last drive. They were basically like 1 for 7 or 1 for 8 on third downs. Can't win like that. Mark Fletcher, he absolutely would have been the MVP had they won this game. Big time performance from him. He said he's going to be coming back next season. That's big for Miami. Um, where are the wide receivers for Miami? We know who Malachi Tony is. We know what he is. Who else? Who else is going to come out and help this team stretch the field and get open? It's really crazy to me how sticky the coverage was from Indiana today. It was sticky as hell. These Miami Hurricanes wide receivers were not separating. They weren't getting open. The only time they were actually getting open was when Carson Beck was willing to hold on to the ball and let those guys kind of get a scramble drill running. And then all of a sudden they were able to get open. But aside from that, they just struggled the entire time to get any kind of separation. And there was no real creativity with the routes. What I loved about what Indiana did is they started trying to figure out what to do outside of the coverage that Miami was doing. They started to then go to the back shoulder throws. They started to then go to those quick sprint outs, where they got that first down from Omar Cooper Jr. A couple big notes here. Who is Charlie Becker? Where did this dude come from? Really special performance. I was expecting Elijah Surratt to more so be the dominant one in this game, but I think Miami was clued in on him and they made a decision that he wasn't going to beat them. But they didn't have a plan for Charlie Becker. This Indiana team really does have three wide receivers that are threats and they're dangerous. And the second note I wanted to make is I saw somebody post something on social media the other day where they said who are the top 10 prospects for the NFL draft. And they really had the nerve to put Carson Beck's name on there before Omar Cooper Jr. And I don't understand why people keep trying to put Carson Beck in this conversation of being somebody who's supposed to be the guy or a guy on the next level. When he was at Georgia, his success came by way of having Brock Bowers. His success came by way of having an offensive line and depth that could allow him to just sit back there and just wait when he needed to. And ever since we started seeing NIL come into play and the depth chart not being what it was able to be and getting spread around, everything has changed for him. And he hasn't been able to change with the game changing as well. And when you play in the NFL, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you're playing against a team every single week that's got studs better than 5 stars? This is the most amazing season for Indiana. Last note I want to make is I'm sick of people trying to compare Indiana to LSU. Only comparison is that they're undefeated, but literally every single stat that Indiana has, LSU doubled it. Okay, I think Fernando Mendoza threw like 30 some odd touchdowns. Joe Burrow threw like 60. And we can do that for every single stat, literally. So we don't need to go there. But, just from the standpoint of having the threats that they had, the LSU threats, those guys were the type of wide receivers that are number one wide receivers with Chase and Jets. These guys, Becker's not a number one, Surratt's not a number one, Omar Cooper's not a number one. But all three of those guys are dangerous number twos. All three of those guys are the type of guys that if they land on the right team, they can easily be 1As. You know what I mean? Special performance, man. Special performance. This is the last game of the season. I mean, shout out Curt Cignetti. The last thing I'll say is it's really amazing what happens when you get the right coach. People do not talk about the coach enough. I saw on Twitter the other day, people were talking about Josh Allen this, Josh Allen that. Yeah, he fumbled. Yeah, he had interceptions. The coach, in my opinion, is what takes you over the top. The players can only get you so far. There are plenty of teams that have the players. Who is your coach? Who is the person talking to these guys and getting their mind right when they need somebody to settle them down? I am in awe of what Indiana did. I'm in awe of what Curt Cignetti did. People are trying to say, oh, yeah, they got these older players. So what? They got wiser guys. They got guys who are smarter, you know? And if these guys are allowed to be there playing, average age of like 22, 23, and they're allowed to be there. And maybe they are smarter guys. Maybe they are guys who can just, be more disciplined. And it seems like it, the way they fill the gaps. We talk about, the run defense, the way these guys come down and hit, it's special. Special season, man. Special season for Indiana. It's just really fantastic to see this. And, you know, um, them going for it on fourth down, the way they did as often as they did, it lets you know that they were challenged by Miami. This wasn't the type of game where they were just going to run right through this team. I absolutely believe that Miami was going to challenge them better than anybody else in the playoffs. And we got it. We got a great game. You asked me, this game was lost in special teams. When they got that field goal, when they got that punt block and they recovered it in the end zone, that's when the game was over, because from that point, Miami could never get control of the game. Miami was always playing catch up. They did have a chance here to take control with the last 51 seconds, but they weren't playing on their terms. They're playing on the terms that they were left with. 0 timeouts, 51 seconds. Let me see what you can do with it. Sometimes that makes you put your foot on the gas and force it, and that makes Carson Beck force it and throws a pass that kind of doesn't make sense. When you look at that play, you don't know if that's Carson Beck's fault or if it's Marion's fault. It's like, what the hell were you throwing? He threw that ball inside. Marion's breaking outside. Marion more so looked like he was ready to go, to the end zone, expecting over the shoulder. And really, when you look at it, Carson Beck has not really had good chemistry with his receivers all season. One of the main reasons why it works with him and Tony is because Tony is expecting it quick. They're throwing him quick, bubble screens and so on and so forth. And it's just not. Miami's really going to have to try to figure out their quarterback situation, because you see what a difference it makes having a guy like Fernando Mendoza versus having a guy like Carson Beck. So much more trust you can have in a Fernando Mendoza to say, hey, it's fourth down. We need this quarterback sneak. Where's Carson Beck? You know, Shout out to Indiana, man. Great game, great championship game. I'm really excited to have been able to just enjoy this historic game, this historic season. Very amazing. Curt Cignetti, man. Shout out great coaching, man. Shout out great coaching, man. We don't talk about great coaching enough. And I just want to say about Curt Cignetti, I find it so interesting how many people in the media try to brand Marcus Freeman as this amazing coach. What has he won? What has he done? He has a team that is in an independent. They're an independent team, no conference. He gets to cheat his way all the way through to the playoffs. They're even changing the format of Notre Dame. All they have to do is be ranked, and they're going to get into the playoffs now. But then you got this guy, Curt Cignetti, who takes the worst team in college football history, turns the program around in 2 years and wins a natty. Doesn't just get to the no, we're not just getting there. Wins the natty. There's a difference between great coaching and great branding. Going to Notre Dame automatically just gives you great branding. That's all it does. It doesn't make you a great coach just because you happen to have a 10-2 season. Now people are talking about you like you just did such an amazing job. No, you did what you were supposed to do, because you got to handpick your games, and you handpicked a bunch of trash teams, and you weren't able to win versus Indiana that won all of their games. Did they have somewhat of an easy schedule? Somewhat, until they didn't. Until it was time for the playoffs, and they blew out Alabama, and they blew out Oregon, At that point, you have to say, okay, your schedule just got a lot harder, and your team is just the best team clearly in college football. So again, this is more than just being about, Fernando Mendoza making plays. No, the coaching, whatever Cignetti's doing over there is making a big difference versus what Marcus Freeman has been doing in Notre Dame. I don't understand why anybody is trying to get Marcus Freeman to go coach in the NFL. He hasn't done anything yet. It's nothing but a story. It's nothing but PR. It's nothing but something to sell your fans to say, yeah, we just got this guy. Make sure you guys get your what you call it, your season tickets. This is great coaching. What we just saw from Cignetti. Big difference versus this and great branding. Big difference versus great coaching and great branding. Marcus Freeman, great branding, handsome guy, tries to always say the right thing. That's why he stutters so hard. That's why he thinks so hard. Sometimes he doesn't get that off though. Like when they just ask him if he wants to go to the NFL. Cignetti, blunt raw. That's how he's keeping it with his team. And that's why they play as hard as they did. That's why they beat everybody that they played. I'm done. Just wanted to get that off. Peace.